Partners in Ministry, a presentation of Josiah White's Quakerdale Foundation, dedicated to growing ministry support networks, introducing people to a cause that connects with their heart, bringing hope and encouragement to our communities as we seek together to serve as Christ served.
Welcome to Partners in Ministry. My name is Dan Smith, and today I'll be talking with Jenny Cross. Jenny is the founder and CEO of TwoTone Creative in West Des Moines, Iowa. In this interview, we're going to explore the effective use of a website for nonprofits. Well, welcome, Jenny, and thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here, Dan.
Now, for the past year plus, TwoTone Creative has been helping us with website design, branding, email broadcasts, and social media posts. You're really helping us communicate to the digital world who we are, what we do, and how people can get involved. Now, we don't have time to take a look at all four of these, so let's just focus in on websites. For nonprofits, are websites important to digital communication?
Yeah, websites are really the center of all digital communication. A lot of times we give a model or a reference of a tire wheel or spoke, and the website's really in the center of it. So each line of communication that goes out from that might be social media or email marketing or a trade show, but all of those avenues point back to the website where people will hopefully stay and read the most amount of information about the organization to really get an idea of who they are and what action they should take.
So really the role of a website is kind of the center of all digital communication. Is that right?
Yep, absolutely. And that's where your ads launch from. That's where all the social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, those things point back to the website. So it's important that that's a place that's being updated and is informative and helpful to the audience, as well as just a place that can be trusted and is accurate.
Now, I know we can experience websites in two main formats. One is on our phones, mobile, and of course the other is on our desktops or our laptops. Should we be focusing on any particular one of those, mobile versus desktop, or should we be looking at both of those?
Yeah, that's a great question. Research really shows that both are still being utilized quite heavily. There is a lean towards mobile, depending on the organization and the age of the target audience, or even the way that the website's being used might dictate that lean one way or the other. But 70% usually is, coming from mobile first. And so when we build websites, we always consider that as the primary way that someone's going to engage with the website. But we know it's always going to be used on desktop, it's going to be used on tablets, and want to make sure that it functions for all three of those options.
Now, one of the things that's been really, really helpful for me is the reporting process that you guys have done for us, so we can kind of get an idea of activity and what's happening. And I find it fascinating that 8:30, noon, and 3:30 are the three busiest times for website traffic. And I'm going,
Yep.
Hey, I think I know when that's happening.
Yep. Sounds like it revolves around the workday quite a bit. Yep.
And then I started looking at my habits and go, you know what? I'm kind of guilty of the same thing. So
yeah,
anyway.
Absolutely.
So what is it that makes a good website?
Yeah, there's a few key factors that make a good website good. And it is something that is simple, and it's not, really intense coding or complicated user experience information for a normal organization or nonprofit. It really comes down to how someone is addressing the target audience and if they're reaching them the right way. So we use something called Building a Story Brand. It's a book by a guy named Donald Miller, and he wrote a book about how people engage with story or new information. So essentially, it's walking somebody through the same script that you would see when you watch a movie. So you start off the movie and you meet a character and they have a problem, but then that character meets a guide that's going to help them solve their problem. And they go through the rest of the movie together to come to a kind of a climax of the movie of we have to do X, Y, and Z to solve this problem. And it's either going to succeed or it's going to fail. And the website should really function the exact same way, addressing your customers' problems and concerns, showing them empathy. They meet a guide who is the organization, and that organization gives them a process on how to reach success. And so it's done in a very subtle way. We're not making websites into movies or anything crazy like that, but using the content to really engage with the audience and speak to them using language that they themselves would use. So that's the first piece, is we build off of this thing called building a story brand. The second, which is also from that book, is showing photos of people who are authentic, that would mean something to that brand, that they're smiling, they're happy, and they're doing the thing that that organization does. So if it's an organization that's helping children, having your main photo be of like a cornfield isn't going to connect them to what it's supposed to be. So really just being authentic and showing real people is another big piece of it. And then the last thing is also kind of on the content side, but it's talking as we call it caveman speak. So talking as if the person looking at your website is a caveman from thousands of years ago, and they're scrolling really fast. They're not reading everything like it's a book. They're just kind of picking out information that they're trying to find what they want. And it should be something that, you know, a second grader could be able to read and understand versus being highly complicated. So simplicity, having a good story, and having really great photos would kind of be the three main things we look for.
Yeah, so we're telling a story. We're connecting to people's emotion through picture. And then we want to make sure that we're not caught up in our own little terminologies that we use in the business, but rather make sure that the words that we're using is something that anybody could understand.
Yep, you got it.
Okay. So I've done all this work. You've helped me with getting the website going. How in the world do I know whether my website's actually doing what it's supposed to do? Is there a way to know that?
Yep, absolutely. So on the back end of any website, you can have different ways to capture analytics on that website. So even having a Google Analytics plugin is a really great and free way to monitor who's coming to your site, where they're coming from, how often, what pages they're on. There's lots of tools that you can use out there. There's heat maps where you can see where they clicked and where they stopped moving and how many seconds they stayed there. Sometimes those are helpful, especially for like an e-commerce site, but just having basic analytics in the back end to see what's being used and what's not being used. Sometimes if you have, two buttons right at the top of your website, you can see that 90% of the audience is clicking this one button and not the second button. If you want people to be clicking that second button, something needs to change. If you don't, maybe you don't even need that. And it's just a distraction from the main call to action. So just looking at the data, tracking it, and then making decisions and changes based on that data. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of lose traction, is they build something, they get the data, but then they don't do anything with the data. And so that's the big thing, to constantly improve your website using that.
Yeah, I know that's one of the biggest things that's helped me in the last couple of months, trying to understand how we're doing by trying this and that. And the other thing is that your team meets with me. We set a plan together of what we're going to do. And then you give me reports that actually monitors that, so I can see whether that's effective or not. It really just kind of builds some confidence that I'm headed in the right direction. Otherwise, for most of the nonprofits that we work with, they're pretty small. This is all just kind of like, magic, mystic, type of stuff.
Yeah.
It can be rather intimidating, but it sounds like you're definitely the type of partner that can help fill that gap in for us.
Yep, absolutely.
So what are some of the most common mistakes that people will make with their website?
Yeah, common mistakes that people make that we see is that really amazing organizations have a lot of things that they want to tell their audience, and they tell them all those things at the same time. So it's kind of like driving down a busy New York street where there's hundreds and thousands of billboards at you, and you're kind of trying to catch them all, but you probably only see a few of them. You don't really get to take them all in or think about them. Websites can often be built that way, where it says, email us, call us, fill out this form, do this survey, see our process, watch this video. And somebody gets there and they're like, this is a lot. I don't really know which thing to even start with, where to begin. And so giving too much all at once is a common mistake that we see with websites, where we really want to guide the user through a step-by-step process and giving them just little bite-sized pieces of information that they can take action on and digest little by little. So that'd be the biggest one that we see as a common mistake.
Well, that was me. When you guys first came in and we started doing this branding, storyboards, and all this kind of stuff, I was going, where in the world is this going? Now, this doesn't make much sense. How are people going to know what to do when they need to do this and that and the other thing? And it actually was more of a work tool than it really was helping to tell a story and letting people understand who we are and what we do. And you guys were super with that. There's no way I could have learned how to do that on myself. So thank you so much for helping with it. And if you look at our website now, it's much, much better. I even go back to it from time to time to look at it, just because it's kind of fun to look at. So Anyway,
That's great to hear. Well, we're getting ready to submit some design awards, and we've got you guys on the list. We're going to submit it. We're really proud of the work we did for you all, and just love the things that you guys do for the community. So it's a good partnership.
Well, thank you. We are too. We are too. You have really been a great help. And the foundation is just 2.5 full-time employees.
Yeah.
So the help that we're getting from you is like hiring this high-end professional people to help us, but not the big cost, because we just need you here and there to help out with stuff. We're still doing a lot of the content, but you've got it all set up so that it makes sense and it flows, and it really looks good. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm a small ministry out here, and I'm a little overwhelmed by what's going on. How can TwoTone Creative help me have an effective website?
Yeah, effective website really needs to just solve one or two main issues that your audience has. And so one would be identifying, why is somebody coming to your website? Why do you even have a website? Are you doing it just because you think it's necessary, or your friend has one, or another business you saw has something? Well, why do you need it, and what purpose will it serve? So identifying that, and then making all the content that's on the site revolve around those two things. Sometimes sites are what we call brochure sites. It's giving all the information somebody needs to make a decision. Some are an e-commerce site where you're selling some sort of product. Some are, to collect donations, and a lot of them have multiple of those functions. So figuring out what that looks like, and then building everything from there is really the best way to get the building blocks in the right spot, so you don't end up with a website that might be pretty or fun, but isn't functional.
Sure. Well, Jenny, I just want to thank you so much for joining me today. That has been some really great information. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Hey, if you got any questions, or if you could really use some help with website or branding or social media or email, these guys are worth checking out. You can see their contact information here on the screen. You can also find it in the show notes for this show on our website. And you can also find it in the description of this YouTube video. So on behalf of TwoTone Creative, Jenny Cross, and Partners in Ministry, I just want to thank you for joining us today. And until next time, let's get out there and serve as Christ serves.
This has been a presentation of Partners in Ministry, a podcast of Josiah White's Quakerdale Foundation. To learn more and see the show notes for this and other episodes, visit our website. To stay informed of up and coming broadcasts, subscribe to our e-newsletter. To invest in our mission, donate today.